Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Ignition Time. Folks, the Democrats are trying to pass a $1.9 trillion stimulus package, and they've now identified a way to pay for it. Why? Because they're not going to be able to increase the corporate tax rate. So they've come up with a new idea. And here's the headline of an article on your screen from the Washington Post. Democrats move to finalize a new billionaire tax plan, and they are targeting the 700 wealthiest Americans in the country as a key source of revenue for the spending plan. So here's what's going on, folks. Senior Democrats are preparing a new tax plan that's going to try and raise hundreds of billions of dollars from the fortunes of roughly 700 billionaires in America. And this is a new shift in policy from the Democrats. Now, I want our viewers and subscribers to know that the richest 1% of all Americans have more money than the bottom 50% of all Americans. Think about that for a second. In fact, the richest 1% of all Americans have more money than 80% of the Earth's population. Think about that for a second. So these richest Americans amongst us have so much money that a few $100 billion here and there makes absolutely no difference to them. In fact, it is predicted that Elon Musk will be the world's first trillionaire. Yes, you heard that right. Elon Musk, thanks to SpaceX, which is going to be his next venture, is expected to be the world's first trillionaire. So what are the Democrats trying to do? They're trying to make sure that the wealthiest Americans pay more in taxes. So while the poorest amongst us were dependent on stimulus checks and unemployment benefits, the ultra-rich were flying around in their private jets, were spending time in their yachts, were having nice parties, were living in their skyscrapers, they had their maids, they lived in their mansions, and the poorest amongst us depended on stimulus checks and unemployment benefits. Now, the Democrats have been trying to get higher income taxes for the wealthy and higher corporate tax rate for years, and they've always said that wealthy Americans and well-off companies should pay more to fund new social programs like subsidized daycare and paid family leave. And what they're trying to do is benefit the working class of America, and they're trying to shrink inequality. But they haven't been able to do that because they've had a lot of opposition from different factions within their own party. Now, it looks like a compromise is emerging. In fact, the Senate Finance Committee Chair, Ron Wyden, who's a Democrat from Oregon, is drafting a plan, and they seem to be optimistic that they'll get support from Senator Kristen Sinema, the Democrat from Arizona. And here's a statement from Wyden. The billionaire's income tax is about fairness and showing the American people taxes are not mandatory for them and optional for the wealthiest people in the country. No working person in this country thinks it's right that billionaires can pay no taxes for years on end and sometimes never at all. Folks, I have done another video on our channel where I explored 55 companies that made hundreds of billions of dollars but paid no federal income taxes. Yep, you heard that right. They paid zero federal income taxes, and this includes companies like Nike and FedEx. They paid zero federal income taxes. In the case of Nike hasn't paid federal income taxes since 2018. Now, keep in mind, they did this legally because that's how the tax code is structured, because as far as the government is concerned, they create jobs. But the fact is that when these companies pay no income taxes, their CEOs get richer, their shareholders get richer, and their employees and the jobs they create, they are the ones who pay income taxes to the federal government. So the way the federal government looks at this is, hey, if companies don't pay tax, well, they'll create more jobs, and it is those employees that will end up paying tax to the federal government. In fact, this was the basis for the $2.7 trillion tax cut by former President Trump and the Republicans back in 2017. So here is what is happening right now, folks. The proposal, the billionaire income tax proposal, is going to be incorporated into a reconciliation bill that the Democrats are hoping to pass, but it does face some obstacles. In fact, the House Ways and Means Committee Chair Richard Neal, the Democrat from Massachusetts, said that the Wyden plan could, I quote, become really complex. So you can start to see that this could get a little tricky. And here's what Neal said. When you do rates, they are efficient and they're easily implemented. Unlike the more esoteric ideas of taxing this or taxing that, rates are simple by nature. People understand them. There's only one proposal on revenue that has passed a legislative body. It's ours. In other words, he's saying, hey, it's going to be hard to be able to set aside a specific tax rate just for billionaires. Now, at the moment, the wealthiest amongst us don't have to pay any taxes on the vast amount of wealth that they have accumulated. They only pay taxes once the asset is sold. And what billionaires do is they end up borrowing against their assets that are not taxed. And that allows them to spend a lot of money while paying low tax rates relative to their income and net worth. In other words, if a billionaire, let's say, has a stake in a company and that stake is worth $500 million, they don't actually sell the stock of the company, because if they sell the stock, then they'll incur income taxes. But what they do, and this is super interesting, they'll borrow against the $500 million and they'll continue to live their lavish lifestyle. And eventually, that $500 million will be inherited by their family members, by their children. And this, folks, is how the rich pass on wealth. Now, the federal government, under this billionaire income tax proposal, is going to require billionaires to pay taxes on the increased value of their assets, such as all the stocks that they own, regardless of whether or not they sell those assets. Now, billionaires would also be able to take deductions for the annual loss in the value of those assets. So in case somebody lost money, they would be able to get a deduction against that, even if they didn't actually sell at a loss. So this really is a new proposal, and this would set up a system for taxing assets that are not easily tradable, like real estate. Folks, a new system would have to be set up. Now, I own single family homes in different parts of the country. And the way the tax code is structured right now is that I don't have to pay any taxes on them until I sell those homes. But under this new system, let's say my single family homes increase in value, I would have to pay taxes if they increase in value. Now, I have to be honest with you, I'm not a billionaire. So I guess this example is less relevant for me and is more relevant for billionaires who own, apartment complexes and who own all sorts of things, who own huge stakes in publicly held companies. But if this does indeed trickle down from billionaires to maybe those who are millionaires, then this could impact millionaires as well. But right now, it looks like billionaires are the target for the Democrats. So this tax would apply to billionaires and people earning over $100 million in income 3 years in a row. So if you make over $100 million in income 3 years in a row, then this is likely to affect you. Folks, that was meant to be a little bit of a joke. Now, I want to be clear. Christian cinema has not been open to this whole thing. So I believe that, that it's going to be, that there could be an uphill battle here. But there have been some rumors emerging from the White House that there is some consensus with Senator Christian Sinema about potentially taxing billionaires, because again, there is going to need to be consensus. Now, a spokesman for Sinema, John LaBombard, he did not confirm or deny her support for the billionaire tax. He said simply that the senator is committed to ensuring everyday families can get ahead and that we continue creating jobs. She has told her colleagues and the president that simply raising tax rates will not in any way address the challenge of tax avoidance or improve economic competitiveness. So, what's the bottom line? Here's a quote from Steve Rosenthal, a tax expert at the Tax Policy Center. This is a fundamentally new tax system that would extend only to billionaires. And the billionaires will be challenged by it, both by the new taxes and by complying with the new rules. Well, folks, that's exactly what's going on. Let me know what you think in the comment section below, whether you agree or disagree with the billionaire tax. I appreciate you watching. Please click the like button. Please click subscribe. Please enable notifications. I'll see you in the next episode of Ignition Time. Take care. Bye.